Right, so if we're gonna make our nature sculptures out of some ice, here is the way that you can go about making some ice that's pretty usable, that's nice and flat, and you can break up into chunks to work with. So I've already started to work with this here. So I've got these cookie baking sheets that, they're maybe about an inch high, and I've filled these up with water, and also, just to make things interesting, a little bit of food coloring to change the color of the ice. So you can see I've already put together just a few rounds of this, and I'm not keeping them perfectly rectangular. I'm going to be breaking them up into chunks to work with as I connect them together. So after you let the ice, or I should say the water in there, freeze, anywhere between maybe 3 to 4 hours, you can check it and just tip it to see if when you the cookie sheet, if you see any water underneath there moving, you know that you need to wait just a little bit longer. Or if you feel like it's thick enough, you can just dump it out anyway. But you'll take the cookie sheet, and you're just going to tip it up and put it over some snow and just give it a good whack. So I found I just tapped the bottom on the ground and kind of tipped it, and I was able to get it to fall out. So I'm going to be just tipping this upright with the other ice that I've got here that I'm going to be able to work with for making a sculpture. When you're ready to make your next round of ice, set down the cookie sheet flat. Don't try to do this where you're moving around a tray filled with water and think that it will work out. Set it flat on the ground first. Bring another container over that you can then slowly fill up with water. Pour that in there. And then if you want to add some food coloring in, pick a color that you want if you have it. You don't have to do the food coloring thing. I just figured it's kind of a fun approach. Change the color of the ice. Put a couple drips in there. And then you could have put the drips in first before putting the water in. That would help to mix it. Otherwise, you can just tip the water container here, and you'll get that food coloring to mix up really well. Okay, so that's making the ice. The next part we're going to talk about is how do we connect the ice together. So, all right, so I've made enough ice that I'm able to start making my sculpture here. Probably made about 8 panes of that cookie sheet sized ice with different colors. Off to the side here, I've got an assortment of them out here. I've also got a cup of water. Here's another couple that I'm gonna empty out of their container here in just a moment. And I'm just gonna make my sculpture right off to the side here in the yard. I think with the sun coming through the ice, it'll be pretty nice. So I'm gonna start building it, and then I'll check back in with you here through the video once I've decided to start putting it together and some of the techniques that you'll use. What I found as I've been working here on this ice sculpture is water and snow mixed is a good thing. It can kind of be used as a way to connect the pieces together. I've also found just pouring a little bit of water right on the ice and then putting the next layer right on top of that, it'll freeze it almost instantly and connect it. This is one of the methods that I'm using for connecting the ice together. Get in a little bit closer here so you can see it firsthand. So I've been working with an eyedropper that I can put water on the ice that I'm trying to connect. So if I take the ice and I get a little bit of snow on it, and then I hold the ice in place in the way that I want it to be, and then I add a little bit of water right along the connection point between the ice and the ice underneath. That'll refreeze and it will hold in place. So kind of a combination of water, but also getting some of this snow connected to the ice. So even like dunking the ice into some water to get a little bit wet first, get some clump snow on it, because the snow will stick to the ice if it's a little bit wet like that. It'll give a little bit of texture to grab onto. Then I can take that ice, put it into the area that I want to attach it. Just kind of get ready with some water. I found that the ice pretty easily sticks to my gloves too. My gloves start to get a little bit wet. I'm gonna hold that in place. Add a little bit of water right at the connection point between the pieces of ice. That'll refreeze and it will cause the ice to be strong. All right, here is my finished view of the colored ice sculpture, inspired by Andy Goldsworthy, just making something out of nature items. Nature and I worked together to make this frozen ice that I was using for it. Again, just working on creating what I think is an interesting form and using color in a kind of a cool way. So, kind of see up close on it. Some of the pieces of ice I've stacked up on top of each other, and others I've kind of laid flat, so it has kind of a unique view from above, but also from the side as we're looking at it. So one of the things I was doing every once in a while was pouring just a little bit of water on there. Again, that kind of helps to see a little bit of the clarity of the ice come back in. So I was doing that on kind of the central form here. One thing that might be kind of interesting is to take some boiling hot water and try pouring that on parts of the sculpture to see what happens for how the melted look of the sculpture would be. But there's just one way to go about the project.